I've been here since 2 o'clock, so I've heard a lot of stories, and one of the most interesting things to me is that there seems to be an echo among lots of the recipients, that there are similar things that we have highlighted in our memory of our story. The first thing that I want to say is also an echo. I've been tended and coached by the most incredible teams. I would have no transplant story at all without the patience and concern of innumerable IHC doctors, nurses, office staff, even the valet, technicians, pharmacists, and coordinators. I have been given every privilege and opportunity required for me to experience so many wonderful things, and I just want to extend a thank you to so many of you. My name is Kimberley Denney, and I was born on December 4th, 1974. At the time, my parents and I had no idea that that would be the beginning of my transplant story. At the time of my birth, the doctors noticed that I had a murmur in my heart and told my young first-time parents that it was pretty common, it wasn't a big deal, and that with time, I would grow out of it. Because in 1974, non-compaction cardiomyopathy would not be understood or diagnosable for decades. I grew up in a physically active, competitive family where my younger brothers would all grow into large, scholarshiped, and then professional football players. During most of my life, I mustered all the energy I could, but always concluded that I was a loser when I just could not keep up with them. Each time, however, encouraged by loving parents, I vowed to do better the next time, and I lived a pretty good life until January of 2011. At that time, I found myself fighting fatigue, fighting lethargy, and fighting a depression that I self-diagnosed as a midlife crisis, because that can totally happen to a 36-year-old woman. I left my career and began a soul-searching adventure. That adventure never really peaked beyond me laying poolside with a Diet Coke for most of the summer. The impressive tan that I acquired was not quite deep enough to hide my symptoms, and friends that I had, personal friends that were in the medical community, observed and expressed emergent concern about my symptoms. I followed up quickly and met with a cardiologist who diagnosed me with atrial fibrillation, and that grew to include pulmonary hypertension, non-compaction, and eventually heart failure. Following some failed attempts of pharmaceutical therapy, 3 cardiac ablations, a few hospital stays, and countless cardioversions, I was officially listed for heart transplant with UNOS on June 7th, 2012. And in March of 2013, a producer from KSL asked if she could do a human interest story on my wait for transplant. The intention is that it would be shared during Transplant Awareness Month of April. We filmed on March 13th, and as the production equipment was being packed away, she joked that I could now have permission to go ahead and get that heart transplant. By 9 a.m. the very next morning, her permission was granted, with a call for me to hurry into the hospital because a match had been made. 3 weeks ago, I celebrated the completion of 5 bonus years of life given to me not only from my heart donor, but with additional assistance from a kidney donor just 6 months ago. The reality is that not one of us will live our life unaffected by the kindness and the generosity of others, but being the recipient of organ donation is the most intimate relationship you could ever have with individuals you will never meet. There are 2 critically important people who gave to me what I could never give to myself. And that's an extension of days to a beautiful, sometimes messy, but always interesting life. The common theme to every portion of my transplant story is an intense feeling of gratitude. These feelings began before a donor was even identified. And I'd like to read a portion from something of mine that was published a month before I became a heart transplant recipient. It reads, February 13th, 2013. Of all of the thoughts and feelings this experience has brought me, one of the most interesting things has been that I think about my donor a lot. Not just every day, but multiple times a day. And I'm surprised because I didn't think I would feel this kind of a connection until after it happened. See, I'm still waiting for a donor, 251 days to be exact. I've been concerned about my donor since the very first day. In fact, during the winter holidays, I started hoping that it wouldn't happen because I didn't want things to be dreary for the donor's family during this and future Christmas seasons. I regularly think about what my donor might be doing right now, and I hope for the very best things. As I say I love you to friends and family, I hope moments to say I love you are embraced by my donor. When I share an entertaining conversation with a friend, I hope that my donor takes every opportunity to laugh a lot. As I organize my paperwork and account information, I hope that loose ends are tied up regarding important issues for my donor. And as I feel peace and patience in the wait, I hope that my donor is also encompassed in peace. I think about this so often because my donor is most likely young and active and believes that the next 60+ years are full of possibilities. My donor has close, significant relationships and possibly has children. My donor is healthy. My donor may never have considered being a donor, and my donor's family might have no instinct to make that decision in his or her behalf. To anyone who may ever become an organ donor, chances are there will come a time when a potential beneficiary begins to think a lot about you. You will become the recipient of prayer, appreciation, and concern from an individual who is fighting for a chance at a better life. And then on a very solemn day, that recipient will begin to spend a lot of time and effort to be worthy of your generosity. They will spend a moment every day for the rest of their second chance, expressing gratitude for the gift you have given. During the last 5 years, I have accomplished things that I never before dreamed of accomplishing. I completed 5Ks, I've climbed mountains, I fell in and then out of love. I learned new concepts and I taught a few. I met all types of people. I've been in the audience of music, sports, and art. I have kissed 6 new nieces and nephews, and I've squeezed the 12 that I had before a million more times. And my very most favorite thing, I have laughed tear-inducing laughter with people I love, some of whom are here with us today. I've also learned that surviving transplant is a spiritual, social, emotional, and physical struggle that I could never have understood prior to taking it on. And in complete disclosure, I have had some gray days and some very disappointing moments. And while I inarguably have the very best of family and friends to offer up support, there have been moments of loneliness that even they cannot fill. But beyond the obvious physical gift, my donors have also offered me a type of companionship that is difficult to explain. Any time in my life when I am faced with doubt, my donors have given me a purpose and a confidence to celebrate each new day, whatever it might look like.